All right, good evening and welcome to the Monday, March 16th session of the Lake Forest City Council. Will the city clerk please call the roll?
Certainly. Honorable Mayor Tack.
Here.
Alderman Novit. Here. Alderman Clemens.
Here.
Alderman Notes.
Here.
Alderman Powers.
Here.
Alderman Levert.
Here.
Alderman Bothfeld.
Here.
Alderman Weber.
Here.
Alderman Walder.
Here.
Mr. Mayor, you have a quorum.
Please rise and join me for the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance.
To the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Perfect. All right. Item number 1, comments by mayor. I'd like to start with a Lake Forest Day proclamation, which this year it is the American Legion salutes the 250th anniversary of the United States of America. The proclamation is as follows. Whereas the McKinlock Post 264 of the American Legion is undertaken to provide appropriate exercises and entertainment in celebration of Lake Forest Day on Wednesday, August 5th, 2026, with a view to bringing together the people of our city in the furtherance of civic interest and advancement of community fellowship. And whereas the McKinlock Post 264 of the American Legion salutes the 250th anniversary of the United States of America as this year's Lake Forest Day theme, honoring Lake Forest residents, employees, neighbors, and friends. Now therefore, be it hereby proclaimed that said Lake Forest Day celebration is declared to be a city fair, and in pursuance thereof, Tuesday, August 4th, 2026, and Wednesday, August 5th, 2026, shall be observed as a holiday in the city of Lake Forest, and our community is urged to forsake their ordinary pursuits and gather in West Park in a spirit of comradeship and goodwill in support of the ideals of our city. May I have a motion to approve the proclamation?
So moved.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Perfect. Commander Mark.
Already looking forward to the beer truck.
Well, I'm sure we're going to have one of those. So once again, looking outside, we don't think of warm, sunny August evening, but it will come, and the Legion is proud to be able to put it on, and it wouldn't happen without the participation and great support from the city. So we're delighted to be playing a part again this year. Thank you so much.
Thank you. All right, in addition, I'd like to remind everybody about the pending ward meetings. The ward meetings are going to begin in a few weeks. These are a chance for residents to hear directly from your alderman about what's new in Lake Forest and what's planned for the year ahead, as well as complaints are always welcome. You can also ask questions and share what's on your mind. The first meeting is Ward 2 on Thursday, April 9th at 6:30, Croya. Additional details and other ward meeting dates are on the screen as above and are also available at cityoflakeforest.com/ward meetings. All right, Commander Marks, if you'd like to leave, feel free. Yeah. All right, the next item is comments by city manager.
Thank you, Mayor, members of City Council. I'm pleased to say I have no report this evening.
Outstanding. All right, the next item is an opportunity for citizens to address the city council. Is there anyone present who would like to? All right, you know the drill.
Partly positive again. What was I saying? I live at 1 Elf Lane or something, East Lake Forest. I don't know. Anyway, just wanted to thank everybody for their kindness at the finance meeting. Very well run, of course. And it was just a wonderful opportunity to learn a little bit more about how we spend the money, and we spend it very wisely. So that's always appreciated. And everybody's kindness was most appreciated. So thank you.
Thank you. there anyone else that would like to address the council at this time? All right, seeing none, we'll move on to the next agenda item, which is committee reports. First will be Parks and Recreation Subcommittee, approval of a beach concession management agreement with the Cotton Duck LLC as the recommended vendor for the Forest Park Beach concessions operation, and approval of an ordinance amending the city code regarding the Class K liquor license for Forest Park Beach, presented by Director Mike Wick.
Good evening, Mr. Mayor, members of the council. Here today to make a recommendation for concessionaire for the summer of 2026. Just a quick reminder of how we get to this place. From a timeline standpoint, you had discussion on December 1st at the council meeting directing staff to formulate an RFP. Staff did that. That was posted on January 30th. Questions were answered the following week. And all submittals were due February 13th. On February 18th, staff interviewed all selected candidates. From there, we moved on to meet with the Park and Rec Subcommittee the following Wednesday, February 25th, and that leads us to our recommendation here tonight. So in total, we had 6 local businesses that applied for the opportunity to run concessions for us this year. All were interviewed, all were qualified. There was an internal team of 5 staff that conducted these interviews. The evaluation was based on the following 4 criteria. Each staff independently scored on a maximum of 25 points in the 4 criteria areas of overall approach and understanding, local experience, qualification and experience of the firm and team members, and the results achieved with similar services offered. Staff met initially after the interviews. Staff then met again after we tabulated the results and had further discussion to recommend a selected candidate. With that, I'm proud to announce the Cotton Duck LLC as our recommended vendor. Some of the qualifications that really stood out to us as a group were a well-known business, operating establishments in town, including the Peanut Gallery, the Gallery, Lucky Duck, and the Revelry Food and Wine Festival. Strong local representation and roots. Brand recognition and roots. Creative enhancements and events. So one of the things that stood out through their interview process was the opportunity to do things a little differently, from maybe a morning offering within the hours, or a hamburger night, or different things that we think will really attract business to the beach, will really enhance the beach visitors' experience. That was one of the things we really looked for as a committee, of how can we enhance our beach offerings. Beyond that, we have proven operational stability, certainly with their local restaurants in town. And then the other thing I would really like to highlight is the focus on the quality, efficiency, and the varying food choices. And we talked about, this was a great opportunity for us to, we think, elevate our experience. In doing so, I think we found a partner that can do that. I just couldn't be more excited to get the process started. Here we have an example menu of what some of the things may look like this summer. Now, certainly this is subject to change, but as a beach goer, I think this is a pretty spectacular lineup. I'm excited about it. So with that, I'd like to invite Dominic and Cecilia. They're here tonight just to come up and share a few words and a few thoughts. And after that, I'm happy to answer any questions that council has.
First, we just wanted to say thank you so much for considering us and for opening up this opportunity for local businesses. Being Lake Forest residents and growing up here, it really means a lot to be able to bring our business to the beach concession, so thank you.
Very good. Any questions or comments?
I just have a question. I'm thrilled that you guys are doing this. It's exciting. The menu looks great. I'm delighted. I'm wondering if you're going to have set hours, or how are you going to operate?
The plan is
in terms of day to day.
We're going to have set hours. It was a 7-day-a-week operations, and I believe we are going to have times where if there was groups walking to the beach early, we would open up additional hours to accommodate those people, but still go with set hours. I believe you had an example of ones that were before that we would follow.
Thank you.
Alderman Notes.
Thank you, Mayor. First, I'm very excited about what you're bringing down to the beach. I'm curious, in the event of bad weather, it's cold, rainy, is the agreement with the city allowing you the flexibility that you can send people home or reopen for those hours that you were otherwise expected to be open? Maybe Mike, if you
I
could.
can take this. So as far as hours go, our goal is consistency. So we want to work with Dominic and Cecilia to build out the consistency of, standard operations in the past have been 10 to 6. Is that necessarily going to be the answer this year? Not necessarily. That's something we're going to work out with them. As far as hours of open and shutdown, if we're going to send lifeguards home and it's a 50-degree day with sideways rain, I don't know that it makes sense for us to require them to be open. So it's going to be a learning curve to some degree. But again, the goal is consistency and expanded elevated operations. So I wouldn't commit to a 100% answer one way or another, but I think as we learn over the first couple weeks of operations, we'll have a much better idea of what best serves the community.
Thank you.
Others? Alderman Weber.
Thank you. It's wonderful to have another Lake Forest business working and continuing in Lake Forest in another capacity, so that's exciting. The question I had was regarding restaurant credit card processing fees. I know some local establishments, and I'm not saying necessarily yours, but in general, I've seen they're charging like a 3% or an additional fee for credit card purchases. I don't know how much cash people carry these days, and I was just curious if those fees were additional to what's on your menu or if those were built in.
We have noticed a lot of restaurants have been doing the 3% additional charge. There's also been service charges that at the bottom of the receipt, it'll say you can ask for this to be removed. We have not adopted adding any of those charges. I understand why a lot of establishments have started to do that, but these prices would reflect exactly what it is with sales tax, in addition to sales tax.
Thank you.
Others? No?
What?
Alderman Walther?
Thank you. This is more of first a question for you. Will any of your beverages be distributed in glass?
No.
Okay, perfect. Thank you. And then how will you safeguard alcohol during off hours? Are there ability to lock all the alcohol up? Yeah.
And those are requirements from the state as well, that the alcohol has to be behind a locked door.
Perfect. Thank you. Now, this is more of a comment for my fellow council members. I'm very much in favor of this agreement. I think this is a great process that we worked out. I would like to maybe ask that the council consider amending the motion as written in our agenda tonight to consider the application of a term limit on this particular contract. Right now, the term requirements under item 3 of the management agreement allow for mutually agreed extensions for 1 year to occur with no term on that. They could go on in perpetuity if everything works out great. Given how we treat other contracts within the city, we usually typically have a 3 to 5 year term with these 1 year extensions permitted within that term, and then the contract goes back out to open bid. So out of respect for all the other local vendors who, generated interest, out of respect for our existing processes, I would encourage us to consider that addition of a term agreement as part of our motion tonight. And then secondly, I would ask that the motion include a correction of an errant reference to the library within the management agreement in item 1.
Okay, before we get into that, are there any other questions or comments for Tom and Cecilia? No? I'm super excited about this. I was thrilled the first time you brought us a business idea, and I'm thrilled to see you do it again. So thank you very much for putting yourselves out there.
We love working in the city of Lake Forest, so thank you so much for your support, everybody.
Super, thank you.
Very much.
Okay, and Mike, could you come back up and could you all address Alderman Walther's question regarding the lease and the rollover of the lease?
Certainly. So it's a one-year term, and there's no automatic rollover. So it would have to be approved by the city again if we were going to renew it for an additional one-year term, and would have to be approved in writing. So to Alderman Walters' concern, this is going to have to come back after 1 year anyways. So if we want to go back out again after 1 year, we can. If we want to renew it for another year and then keep checking when we want to go back out for another competitive process, the council will have that leeway.
As we do with our other contracts that have a term limit, to say maybe a maximum 5 years, it does have a mutually agreed written authorization to go on for 1 more year. That's always the case. But at least all the other vendors who bid on maybe even a bridge contract or any other contract that the city offers would know that in 5 years, they have an opportunity to put forth their best effort to get the next job. So that's my comment, to be consistent.
Are there any concerns regarding that requested modification? Alderman Weber?
I just wanted to comment that I was contacted by other vendors who were through the interview process. Were disappointed that they weren't selected. And the great thing about Lake Forest is we have a lot of really amazing vendors here. So I know that things come down to a certain set of qualifications, but I do think that it makes sense to stay consistent in having a 5 year, whether it's a 5 year term, and then put it out and see where it's at for community, just to keep it transparent.
Other thoughts, comments on that? So I guess the requested modification is a mandatory 5-year RFP, putting the business out regardless of whether we're happy or not with the vendor that we have.
So would it be not to exceed language? Is that what you're looking for? Because if it's renewable on an annual basis, subject to
Up to 5 years.
up to 5 years.
Right, at
Okay.
which point we would then be required to put it back out for bid and open it up to the entire, including the existing vendor.
Okay.
Certainly, we can add that, just to say that additional 1 year extensions up to a maximum of 5 years in section 3.
That would be my recommendation.
Okay, Alderman Power?
So my only concern is there isn't pricing in this. We're not buying equipment. We're not doing anything. So it's a little bit unique. And what our hope is to mutually work with the Lucky Duck and their team as we learn what's happening. Our own personal experience until now hasn't necessarily been great from a service perspective for the community. So by bringing these guys in that have great food, great service, other locations in town, we wanted to be able to make adjustments if necessary, particularly if, there's look, trash, for example, right? If all of a sudden we need to have a person that's dumping trash regularly because they're so successful with their program, we wanted to make adjustments. So, I mean, I guess I'm a little bit different on how we do it. I just don't think it's like a traditional city contract, so to speak. Because we're not collecting any pricing from them.
Yes, Alderman Novak.
Idea of how much of an investment they are making in this space to operate?
So address that to Mike.
Sure, yeah, the space is gonna be operated as is for this year. That's part of the learning experience.
Okay.
So the answer's none.
I just want to,
Other than the
I want to be
$10.
sensitive to how much of an investment the service provider is making. So that if it's a 5-year limit on the amount of years they are allowed to renew without having to go through the RFP process, I don't want them to be in a situation where they've invested a bunch of money and then they lose it.
Yes.
That's my concern.
Yeah, and correct me if I'm wrong, but my understanding is that there's negligible infrastructure investments on their part, and for that matter, really on our part. I mean, we're upgrading the space, cleaning it up, getting the equipment into optimal function, but at least for year one, there's not a lot on either side, and that doesn't mean that they won't be bringing equipment of their own that they need to operate that's removable that they take with them. And maybe Dominic, you would like to.
Yeah, we're going to be bringing in some of our own equipment. There's some small wares that need to be added to the existing facility. We're going to upgrade the Panini Grill. We're actually going to have a warming box for online orders. So if you're sitting at your towel and you just want to put it in and it's going to be 25 minutes, we'll have the ability to make it. You just walk up to the window, get it. So there will be a little bit of an investment on our part, but it isn't anything significant.
Okay. Any further comments, questions for either Dominic or Mike? Nope. All right. Thank you very much. And then we will move on to public comment. Is there any public comment on this matter? Okay, seeing none, then I will go ahead and ask for a motion to approve a beach concessions agreement with the Cotton Duck LLC as the recommended vendor for the Forest Park Beach concessions operation, and approval of an ordinance amending the city code regarding Class K liquor license for Forest Park Beach with the modifications as discussed.
So moved.
Second.
This will be a roll call vote.
Alderman Weber.
Aye.
Alderman Waller.
Aye.
Alderman Novit. Aye. Alderman Clements.
Aye.
Alderman Notes.
Aye.
Alderman Howard.
Aye.
Alderman Levert.
Aye.
Alderman Bothfeld.
Aye.
8 yea, 0 nay, motion carries.
Awesome. Thank you very much. And I think it's a very exciting development. All right, the next item on the agenda is from the Public Works Committee. Overview, there will be an overview map for Public Works omnibus items number 4, number 5, and number 6, presented by Byron Coote, Superintendent of Engineering.
Good evening. Thank you, Honorable Mayor and members of City Council. So as the Mayor just mentioned, wanted to go do an overview of the 3 omnibus capital improvement projects that are on your agenda for tonight. So looking at the map, on the legend, basically everything's color-coded, and then there's a resurfacing chart for all the streets down at the bottom right. So I'm going to start with the water main. So the water main is shown in blue. It's on Green Bay Road from Linden to Greenwood. It's a 10-inch water main. We're replacing it with the same size. The capacity is not the issue. The pipe is from 1924, so over 100 years old. And it's one of the frequent flyers in terms of breaks. I don't know the exact number, but I believe it's several over the last couple years that operations staff have to respond to fix. Along with the project, we'll resurface those 2 blocks. The project is scheduled from right after school, or when summer starts, around June 8th, and then done right before school resumes around August 10th. The next project I wanted to highlight tonight is the ones that are in orange, which is the sidewalk repairs, and then in purple, the concrete repairs. And I just want to point out, although it's shown as a solid line, it's actually spot locations, intermittent repairs. So the last few years for sidewalks, we've had a budget of about $85,000. We focus on trip hazards of about 1 inch, and we do get calls of trip and falls, so it is a liability. It is something that the city wants to focus on. So this year we have an increased amount, a total of $285,000 for sidewalks along those different locations that are shown there in orange. I don't know if it looks orange on that screen, kind of looks red, but it's orange on my paper. And then in purple on Fairview, we'll be repairing some concrete panels. So not the whole street. The panels are roughly 10 by 20 or 10 by 10, and we'll be replacing the ones that are either cracked up or there's a big lip. The budget for the concrete street repairs is $25,000. The overall contract, the schedule for that, it will start in early June and probably last about a month or so. But the main thing to take away from that is that it'll be done before school starts. And then the last item to highlight tonight is the resurfacing of various streets, which is shown in green. The schedule for that, we start a little bit earlier just because it's a little bit of a longer construction duration. We're starting May 4th, the week of May 4th, maybe May 11th. We're still working with the contractor on that, and then we'll be finishing up right before school starts on August 7th. We are looking to resurface about 2.7 miles of streets, and we're utilizing the motor fuel tax funds, the MFT funds, $1.5 million, which we utilize for resurfacing every 3 years. So with that, I can take any questions.
Other questions? Yes, Alderman Bothfeld.
Byron, do you send out notifications like in this street resurfacing to everybody who lives in that area so that they are well aware that it's going to be, they're going to be excited, but it's also going to be a mess.
Correct. Yeah, our standard procedure for this type of core project is about 2 to 3 weeks. So I think we already have the letters drafted. We'll be sending them out in the next week or two. We work with the communications team as well. It'll be updated on the website, social media posts, and then we also have our own internal GIS story map, as we call it, that we'll be updating it there as well.
Great.
Awesome. Other questions or comments? Okay. Very good then. There's nothing to approve. That was just informational. Thank you very much. The next item is items for omnibus vote consideration. Once again, we have the correct omnibus this week. So I'm going to read the omnibus. If there is any item that you would like taken separately or removed, please let me know and we will do so after I've read all the items. Item 1, approval of the Monday, March 2nd, 2026 City Council meeting minutes. Number 2, consideration of an ordinance prohibiting the use of coal tar sealant products in the city of Lake Forest, final reading. Number 3, annual vendor approval for fiscal year 2027. Item 4, consideration of a request to waive the fidelity bond requirement in connection with holding the raffles in the city of Lake Forest for McKinlock American Legion Post 264, approval by motion. Item 5, award the low bid for the Green Bay water main replacement and valve repairs project to DeMayo Brothers Incorporated and authorize the city manager to execute an agreement in the amount of $1,214,850 and a contingency in the amount of $55,150 for a total project cost of $1,270,000. Item 6, approval of a third-year renewal with Schroeder and Schroeder Incorporated for the 2026 concrete streets, curb, and sidewalk replacement project, and authorize the city manager to execute an agreement in the amount not to exceed $310,000. Item 7, award of the low bid for the 2026 patching and resurfacing project to Peter Baker and Son, and authorize the city manager to execute an agreement in the amount not to exceed $1,580,000. Item 8, consideration of ordinances approving recommendations from the Building Review Board for 163 Washington Road and 290 Majestic Oak Court, first reading, and if desired by the City Council, final approval. Item 9, consideration of an ordinance approving a recommendation from the Historic Preservation Commission in support of a building scale variance for an infill addition at 161 North Sheridan Road, first reading, and if desired by the City Council, final approval. And finally, item 10, consideration of an ordinance approving a recommendation from the Zoning Board of Appeals for 284 Granby Road, first reading, and if desired by the City Council, final approval. Are there any items that the alderman would like removed or taken separately? Hearing none, may I have a motion to approve the omnibus items as presented?
So moved.
Second.
Okay, this will be a roll call vote.
Alderman Walther?
Aye.
Alderman Hovitt?
Aye.
Alderman Clemmons?
Aye.
Alderman Notes?
Aye.
Alderman Powers?
Aye.
Levert?
Aye.
Alderman Bothfeld?
Aye.
Alderman Weber?
Aye.
8 yea, 0 nay, motion carries.
All right, we move on to old business. Consideration of an ordinance approving construction of a telecommunications tower at the city's compost center, 1381 Kennedy Road, Route 60, and the associated ground lease with Tower North Development LLC, and authorize the city manager to execute all related documents subject to final approval by the city attorney, waive first reading and grant final approval, presented by Catherine Cerniak.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor, members of the council. This is a next step, an incremental step in achieving your goal of improving telecommunication service community-wide. A quick look back, last year the Plan Commission considered a code amendment which focused on the Everett and Waukegan Road area. The Plan Commission, instead of recommending approval of that, recommended to the council instead that you modify the code, that you amend the code to allow a standalone tower at the city's compost center. You did approve that code amendment. You directed the staff to go out with a request for proposal to tower builders. In November, you authorized us to work with Tower North, a tower building company, on a ground lease for installation of a new tower at the compost center. Since that time, in addition to our their attorneys and our attorneys working on the lease. We've also met with the technical staff from Tower North. Engineering work, surveying work, utility locates have all been in progress. What is before you tonight is a request to approve the lease, approve the ground lease, and authorize construction of a tower at the compost center, and to authorize the city manager to execute all necessary documents. The city's compost center is on Route 60. It includes not only our compost, recycling operations, but it also includes our water tower. Currently, we have two providers, AT&T and T-Mobile, located on top of, within, and around that water tower. This image is just intended to give you a perspective of where the location is, and I'll hone in on that on the next slide. But we are looking south, kind of southeast. This is our water tower with the equipment on top, cables that go through the riser, equipment below, and then equipment on the ground. The proposed location for the new tower is south and east of the existing water tower, backed by a shed if you've been out there. So it is well separated from the active area where residents actually come onto the site. Again, another image, water towers here, Route 60 is up above the slide. This is the compost area, and back in this corner, high school ball fields are back here, but this is generally the proposed ground lease area. You do have the lease included in your packet. The lease is about 25 pages, I think. I will try and summarize that very quickly. The key lease terms speak to the permitted height of the tower. The tower will be permitted up to 160 feet, and that is the height that's being proposed by Tower North. The ground lease area is 75 feet by 75 feet. That area will be enclosed with a chain link fence, and all of the ground equipment for all of the providers on the tower will be located within that secured area. The lease requires Tower North to diligently pursue the outside agency approvals. They require approval from FAA, FCC, approvals through the Environmental Protection Policy Act, and believe it or not, approvals from the State Historic Preservation Agency. This site is not within the city's historic district. So hopefully that will be a quick review. We do allow up to 18 months for those reviews in the lease, but Tower North has already made some initial inquiries and believe they can get those approvals much quicker than that. Tower North will own, maintain, operate, and lease out space on the tower. There is a provision in the lease for the city at no charge to add antennas if we would need them for public safety. I don't know if that will be the case, but we have that option. The term is 5 years. Tower North will be making about a $500,000 investment in the site. The preparation work, the surveys, the necessary extension of utilities, installing the foundation for the tower, preparing the ground lease area, the 75-foot by 75-foot area, erecting the tower, of course, and then installing the chain link fencing around. So they are making a significant investment. After the initial 5-year term, there is an option in the lease for 9 5-year extensions, well beyond the time any of you will be sitting up there. The initial payment we will receive from Tower North is $125,000. A portion of that will be upon execution of the lease, and the rest will be upon, I believe, the beginning of construction of the tower. I may have that wrong, but it's at the front end of the process. That is an upfront payment to the city. The city will receive recurring rent based on the rents paid by the sub-tenants on the tower. The lease provides for a minimum of $500 per month. or 30% of the subtenant rents. The market rate, Tower North works with many of the companies already. Their normal market rates per month, their rents are $2,500 to $4,000 per month. So at the outset, the anticipated revenue, once we get all three major carriers on the tower, would be about $40,000, $45,000. The key is that, and Tower North explained this carefully, is that that initial rent is subject, through their leases with subtenants, which the city is not involved in negotiating, when they swap out equipment or when they upgrade equipment, there is an opportunity for an increase, an incremental increase in those rents. So as Tower North explained it, they're in it for the long haul. Once a tower is installed, once the providers are located on those towers, the intent is that they remain there for decades, unless technology moves in a completely different direction. In the lease, there are requirements for removal of the tower and restoration in the event that Tower North would at some point leave that site. There's also a requirement for restoration after installation. After they do construction, they would need to restore the site to the current quality. It is not obviously a highly landscaped site, so we would have to discuss what that means, whether that means repairing or updating the gravel road. We would have that discussion. Any tax or utility payments that result from the erection of the tower would be the responsibility of Tower North. And the lease also provides for insurance and indemnification requirements as recommended by the city attorney. Obviously, there's a lot more in the lease. If there are legal questions, I am going to turn to the city attorney to respond to those. The timeline, this hasn't been a quick process to date, and it is not a quick process going forward. As I mentioned, the lease allows up to 18 months for the approvals from the outside agencies. Tower North believes they can get those approvals and complete installation of the tower by the end of this calendar year. That may be overly optimistic, but they are, again, they've already done a lot of homework on the site, a lot of prep work, so that is their goal. Assuming that happens, we would first look to Tower North to bring in Verizon. Verizon is not currently located at the site, so adding Verizon to that site adds the most value, adds from a community benefit service perspective. So first quarter of calendar year 2027, they would bring in Verizon, and then following that, AT&T and T-Mobile would move over with a completion, all three major carriers by the end of calendar year 2027. There may be some minor carriers, Dish Network or other small scale. There is an opportunity for up to 4 major carriers on the monopole as proposed. Community impacts, wireless service will improve. It's important to note that everything we hear from the providers, from the tower builders, indicate that this will not address the service coverage and quality issue that we know we have in many areas of the city, but particularly in the 4th Ward. This is going to result in some improvement, some incremental improvement. Once the carriers are on board on the tower, we'll certainly do some updated studies, but I don't want to mislead anyone. We do believe this is an incremental step toward improving service. A key value in this new pole being erected is that we can remove infrastructure, the telecommunication infrastructure, from a critical asset of our water distribution system. I know Public Works staff are in the audience if you need to hear that emphasized, but there will be an offloading of the structural equipment at the top. There will be an ease of maintenance for our staff to get up and down that the riser. And we know that the water tower within the next 5 years will require a significant and a complete refurbishment that will require repairs to the metal, addressing any rust issues, painting. In order to do any work on the water tower to that extent, everything, if there was not going to be a new tower, everything on that tower would need to be removed and put on a temporary cell on wheels on the site. And then after we do everything we can to repair and protect that tower going forward, we would then be putting all that equipment back on. So there is significant value in that. There is a potential revenue loss to the city. We currently have very, very lucrative contracts, leases with both AT&T and T-Mobile. We've had those for decades. Both of those are coming to an end. On an annual basis, we receive about $200,000 from those leases. We are in the last year of the AT&T lease. That lease expires in 2030. The current term of the T-Mobile lease expires in 2028. We have been contacted numerous times over the years by AT&T telling us, emphasizing that what they're paying us is way out of market. They've threatened to leave the tower or leave Lake Forest, which they've never done. But if we were in a position to renegotiate either of those leases, we can't expect to get anywhere near the current rents that we're getting. So there is value in that. We also could have some leverage, theoretically, if we did not want to let AT&T, for instance, out of their lease prior to 2030. We could hold them on the water tower if we chose to. There may be some additional leverage for Tower North, too, in negotiating leases, knowing that they're going to move on to the standalone monopole for a much lower rate. So it is a revenue loss, but it's a long-term game, and protection of the water tower is really critical. Next steps, as I said, this isn't the end of our work to try and improve service. We are continuing to talk to the various providers about continuous upgrades. There have recently been upgrades at Lake Forest High School to the carriers up there. Upgrades are coming on top of the 580 Bank Lane building. We're also working with carriers to explore in what areas coverage is significant enough to be boosted by distributed antenna systems. That is, smaller antennas on light poles or other utility poles. We will continue to evaluate service levels, and over the long term, we do still hear that in order to significantly improve service, we will need major improvements, and that probably means one or more new towers. It is possible that we may receive an application from a private property owner, one or more private property owners who may be working with some of the tower building companies. If we receive that, we would, of course, bring forward a code amendment. We will be obligated to bring forward a code amendment to the Plan Commission for consideration under the limited purview that the city has in reviewing those types of applications. So what is before you tonight is consideration of a lease and approval of a tower. There is an ordinance before you that both approves the lease and the tower, and that ordinance authorizes the city manager to execute all necessary documents. I would be happy to answer any questions.
Are there any questions or comments? Alderman Bothfeld.
So Kathy, do you have a sense currently how far the water tower range is for these cell towers, and then how that might change with the monopole? Does it go out half a mile, 2 miles?
I don't know the distance. We've certainly seen the coverage maps before.
Yeah.
And particularly looking at that Everett and Waukegan intersection, the companies believe service will be enhanced at that intersection. As far as that intersection, so I don't know what that distance is, should certainly improve coverage for West Campus. The current AT&T and T-Mobile provide fairly good service to most of Conway Park, Conway Farms and Conway Park, and also reach across to the south across Waukegan Road. So again, Verizon isn't located in that area at all. The ring is pretty big. Once those providers get on the tower, they'll be able to give us a distribution ring. They'll check how far service is coming, and we'll certainly share that with the council.
Thank you.
Other comments? Alderman Clemmons.
Is the water tower?
Water tower is about 160.
Okay.
What?
160,
Oh, it's the
okay.
same.
Yeah. Yeah.
Other comments or questions? Alderman Novit.
Just quickly, the fact that they can build it up to 160 feet doesn't mean they will they?
Yes, they will. And we did have the discussion about whether we should come back to the council and ask for something taller. And the tower building companies and the wireless carriers said there is more value in a new tower somewhere else, that the 160 is really sufficient and really standard in that area.
Other comments or questions? Very good. Is there anybody in the audience that would like to address the council on this matter at this time? All right. Well, Kathy, thank you very much for that. Let's light a fire under these folks, I hope. So at this time, I'd like to ask for a motion to waive first reading and grant final approval of an ordinance approving tower construction at the city's compost center, 1381 Kennedy Road, Route 60, and a lease agreement with Tower North Development LLC, and authorize city manager to execute all related documents, subject to final approval by the city attorney. May I have a motion, please?
So moved.
Second?
Second.
All right, this will be a roll call vote.
Alderman Clemmons.
Aye.
Alderman Notes.
Right.
Alderman Powers.
Aye.
Alderman Burt.
Abstain due to employment?
Alderman Bothfeld.
Aye.
Alderman Weber.
Aye.
Alderman Walzer.
Aye.
Alderman Novit.
Aye.
7 yea, 1 abstention, motion carries.
Excellent. All right. We will then move on to new business, of which there is none. Additional items for discussion and comments by council members. I'd like to just start with the comment that you have until 8 o'clock to vote in the caucus election. So for those of you who have not done so, please do so on your way out the door. Are there any other comments by council members? Yes, Alderman Bothfeld?
Primary tomorrow.
Okay,
Don't forget about that.
all right. There's a,
And, oh, yeah, you can vote for Alice
vote for Alice. We're not.
if you're in the third ward.
Yeah. Oh, yes. Anyway, all right. So that being said, we will ask for a motion to adjourn.
So moved.
All in favor?
Aye.
Done. Thank you.
Good luck.
Thank you.
What time is it?